Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into a fascinating and honestly super relevant topic, the intersection of genetics, physical appearance, and disabilities when it comes to starting a family. There's so much confusion floating around out there about this, but when we actually look at the science, the reality is incredibly clear. So let's map out the amazing journey of human DNA together. Right off the bat, let's tackle the big question on everyone's mind. Can a disabled person and a non-disabled person have a healthy, non-disabled child? It's a completely natural question to ask when you're thinking about family planning and wondering what traits actually get passed down to the next generation. Section 1. Disability in starting a family. The straightforward answer. And the answer to that opening question is a resounding yes. Absolutely. In so many cases, people with disabilities can partner up with non-disabled individuals and successfully have healthy non-disabled children. Having a disability doesn't just automatically flip a switch that says you can't have kids. In fact, the disability itself typically has absolutely zero impact on a person's underlying fertility or their biological ability to have a safe, viable pregnancy. Moving on to Section 2, the 50-50 DNA mix, the science of human identity. To really grasp why the answer is such a strong yes, we kind of need to look under the hood at how we're actually built. It's like a giant genetic recipe. Every single child inherits exactly 50% of their genetic information from their dad and 50% from their mom. It is a perfect down-the-middle split. No one parent completely takes over the genetic makeup of the child. It's a totally shared contribution. Because of this perfect 50-50 split, biology basically scrambles the deck. It creates a completely random combination of traits, which ensures every single one of us is a wholly unique individual. A son isn't going to be an exact clone of his father's face, or his mother's face for that matter. Nature specifically mixes things up to prevent offspring from being exact copy-pastes of their parents. All right, Section 3, genetic versus non-genetic conditions, understanding the root cause. Now, here is where it gets absolutely crucial. Whether a child inherits a disability largely depends on the root cause. On one side, we have non-genetic causes. We're talking injuries, severe illnesses, infections, or maybe complications during birth. But on the flip side, we have genetic conditions, which are literally coded into a person's DNA. And let me tell you, that distinction changes the whole shebang. Let's look at the non-genetic side first. It's a fundamental rule of biology. Physical changes from an accident or an infection just aren't part of your DNA. Therefore, they cannot be passed on. So if a parent's appearance changed because of an accident, or actually, let's say they lost a limb, those physical changes are completely separate from their genetic code. They simply are not inherited by the child. But, what if the condition is genetic? Well, even then, it's rarely a guarantee. Yes, for sure, there might be a chance of passing it on, but the actual risk depends entirely on the specific condition and exactly how it's inherited. The biggest takeaway from our sources here is incredibly positive. Tons of people with genetic disabilities go on to have incredibly healthy pregnancies and give birth to children who don't inherit the condition at all. Next up, Section 4, the Keon and Mufasa analogy, pop culture meets genetics. Sometimes the best way to wrap our heads around genetics is through a good story. Our sources bring up this fantastic analogy from the animated series The Lion Guard. If you've seen it, you know the character Keon isn't an exact copy of his grandfather Mufasa, right? But you look at him and you instantly see Mufasa. They are distinct individuals, but the resemblance is undeniable. Human genetics work exactly like this. This hits the nail on the head. Resemblance does not mean replication. A non-disabled child can easily inherit traits from a disabled father. We're talking his eyes, his nose, a particular smile, his general build, all while getting completely unique traits from the other parent. The result? It's usually a younger-looking version of the parent, but never, ever a pure copy. So here's the bottom line. A parent's disability does not, by itself, stop a child from looking very much like them. A non-disabled child can absolutely carry forward that distinct family resemblance and that recognizable face, completely independent of the disability itself. Section 5, seeking expert genetic guidance, getting personalized clarity. Look, while we've covered the fundamental rules today, human genetics is a wildly complex puzzle. If you or someone you know is ever concerned about inheritance, the absolute smartest move is to talk to a pro. A doctor or a genetic counselor can look at your specific situation and lay out the exact risks for your family. They provide that personalized insight you need to make fully informed decisions based on your actual, real-life DNA.
As we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with a thought to chew on. We've seen how that 50-50 genetic mix works. We've drawn the line between injuries and DNA, and we've learned how traits are passed down without creating literal clones. Considering all those endless 50-50 combinations playing out across generations, just how many amazing, random, absolute perfect combinations had to align to create the completely unique face you see in the mirror every single day. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and hey, keep asking great questions.